Hello and welcome to episode 24 of Game Day Gameplay, the sports segment of Console Space. I'm your host, Sean Colangelo, and I'm joined as always by, Todd, one of our
Yes, sir.
very few loyal listeners, pointed out that there were a few episodes where I wasn't doing your tagline, the man I envy the most in the wintertime.
Yeah,
Probably because it's finally not winter anymore.
probably.
But at any rate,
I'm
the
just
man
amazed
I.
someone listened to that many episodes.
Yeah, I know, right? You're telling me. But at any rate, it is the man I envy the most in the wintertime. Todd from Florida. How's it going, bro?
It is going good, and you know what is funnier than episode 24, Sean?
We'll tell you next time.
Exactly.
We'll tell you next episode what's funnier than 24. Um,
Yep. It's been a while. It's been a while, Sean.
it's been a while. I was out of the country. I was getting interrogated by uh, foreigners. Not the band
Uh huh.
either. Um,
Oh man, if it was the
so
band, it would have been a good time.
it would have been a good time. Let's just say that these these particular people were as cold as ice.
Ooh.
Yeah. So I gotta ask you before we start. What have you been gaming on, bro?
What have I been gaming on? I don't know. I haven't played anything new recently. I've just been kind of just playing Fortnite and Rocket League, to be honest. Um, Still haven't finished Detroit. I've been real busy with work, everything going on, so I haven't had a lot of time to do a lot of single player stuff. So basically, it's just whenever I get on with Flu when I'm playing with him.
That
To
son
be
of a
honest
bitch.
with you,
That son of a bitch flew.
I haven't played Pokemon Emerald.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I gotta run that on my emulator on my tablet, but uh, just beat the League Four about a couple days ago, and now I'm
Nice.
just working on just building my team as strong as I can. So
Well, I can tell you, I am with you in regards to Far Cry 5. Game did
yeah,
not. That game did not suck me in at all. I actually already uninstalled it. I was having zero fun playing that game. Totally done with it. So,
hmm
um, and we are not the only people I've talked to that felt the exact same way about that. Um,
yeah.
so
It's basically just like playing Far Cry 4 over again without having any of like the story to draw you in on it. So,
pretty much. Um,
but
but
I've been
as
meaning to
you,
try XCOM because it's
oh
free,
yeah, yeah,
but
yeah,
I just haven't tried it yet.
yeah. Well, I mean, as you know, I was in Greece for my honeymoon, and so I was limited in my options of gaming. Um, I have a Switch though, which obviously is built for travel. So yeah, I took my Switch and I was playing Zelda, and I actually finally got pretty sucked into Zelda. So I've pretty much just been playing that game. It's really good.
Nice.
So as far as like PlayStation wise, I don't know. I guess I'm kind of just waiting. At this point, I'm just waiting for Red Dead, and I
Is
guess
that the next
Fallout.
big thing coming out?
Well, there's
Yeah,
Fallout, there's
yeah.
Red Dead. I mean, but this stuff is like in the fall, really. So
Yeah.
I mean, Spider-Man's in September, but we'll get there. So we got a lot to cover, so let's kick this off. This
Alright.
episode is pretty much NHL centric. While I was gone, the draft took place, and today was free agency, which was freaking insane. Um,
Mm-hmm.
we'll get there, but real quick, I know a little something happened in the NBA
A
just
little
like an
something.
hour ago, right?
just
Yeah,
just a little something. I mean,
yeah, a
probably
small
the
little,
biggest news come out of the NBA in 5, 6 years. I don't know how
yeah.
long it's been since LeBron went back to Cleveland, but LeBron's going to the Lakers. Um, he's taking his talents to South Beach, I believe.
the other
I don't know where the Lakers
the
play. To be
other
honest with you,
South Beach. I don't know.
the other South Beach.
He's going to
Uh,
Disneyland.
yeah, and which one I don't know, but
No,
no,
land.
he's going to the Lakers. They signed him to a massive contract. I don't know the terms on it. I didn't look it up to be honest with you. I just know it's LeBron, so it's probably a max deal. It's 3 years. I do know that one. 3 years on a max deal, I think. I mean, There's a lot of rumors that he's doing this one just because he wants to play in LA, not so much for the winning a title or anything. Because LA's roster, even with LeBron, doesn't look that much better than Cleveland's. It's better than Cleveland's, but it's not that much better. And so far, there's been no one else confirmed going with him or anything like that. So
Yeah, I mean, the Lakers have kind of been rebuilding, have they not?
they have ever since Kobe retired, even before Kobe retired. But that definitely sent him along the way. But yeah, I mean, all the big names that we thought might go with him. Chris Paul stayed with Houston. Paul George is staying with Oklahoma City. Durant has decided he doesn't want to leave Gold State. So I mean, I guess the Lakers still could trade for Kawhi, and there is some talk about that, Kawhi Leonard. But um, I don't know. I think LeBron's kind of just like, I just want to play for LA. It's a nice city, warm weather. He can kind of get his foot in the door in Hollywood, which I think he wants to act when he's done with basketball. So
Yeah, it almost kind of feels like maybe he's just trying to slowly make his way into the sunset. I mean, he's been to the last what 8 finals, and
yeah,
he,
yeah,
I'm sure he hasn't won as many as he hoped, but I mean, he's got his
he's got
rings.
three champions.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't. I mean, this move to me. I mean, of course, unless he is joined by like Kawhi or something like that, that's probably not gonna happen. But
hmm
yeah, it seems like he's just kind of setting himself up to kind of slowly, you know, kind of like slowly burn out. I mean, he has
yeah,
to know that they're not going to get past the Warriors. It's just not. I mean, it's not going to happen.
more than likely. More than
So
likely.
you know,
At least not this year. At least not with their current roster makeup. But um, yeah, I mean, it's probably a move for that. He's gonna make a ton of money. I mean, jersey sales alone, LA is the biggest market in basketball for sure. The
yeah.
Lakers. I mean,
Hmm.
it's not even close. And he's gonna make a ton of money out there. He's setting himself up pretty. So, yeah, it looks like for once. I mean, no, I mean not really for once. His move to Cleveland, back to Cleveland, was more for personal reasons. But this one, it looks like he's kind of just decided, hey, I'm gonna go play where I want to play, and if they do well, they do well. If they don't, they don't.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, so Todd, like I said, I was gone. I was out of the country. I didn't even have my phone in my hands all that much, which actually was pretty nice. But so I don't really even know what happened in the NHL draft. So why don't you tell me about
Well,
it?
let me break it down for you. I'm sure you know Dolan went first overall to Buffalo. Um,
Yeah, that's not surprising, obviously.
that's been known pretty much since 2 years ago that Dolan was going to go first overall in this draft.
Yeah.
Um, this completely reshapes Buffalo's team. I mean, they go from bottom feeder, worst team in the league, to probably middle. I would say. I mean, I can't imagine them finishing in the bottom 10 with the roster they have now. Which we'll talk about some of the other moves they made today um, later. But Dolan is that good, man. I mean, he's probably the next Eric Carlson in terms of how good this kid is.
Yeah, for sure.
He's going to step in. He's going to play immediately. He's going to play next to Ristolainen, which is a disgusting defensive pairing. I mean, that's insane. But um, no surprises there. If Buffalo didn't take Dolan, they'd be the biggest idiots in the world, probably. No surprise at second either. Svechnikov went second to Carolina, who lucked into that pick with the lottery. Um, there's been, I mean, they're kind of fire sailing right now in terms of their players. They didn't do a ton in free agency today, but they do get an elite player in Svechnikov. He's going to be a really good scoring winger. Um, reminds me a lot of Alex Simmon in his prime, to be honest.
Okay.
Which is kind of funny because he played with Carolina, but I'm talking about when he was playing with Ovechkin in Washington. I mean, he's going to be probably a 30 goal guy. Really big scorer. Um, pick number three is where it went off the rails though, because a lot of people had Kachuk, Brady Kachuk, or Philip Zadina listed there. Montreal went down because they needed a center and picked Kotkaniemi out of the Swedish league, or sorry, yeah, Swedish league. I think that's where he played, or Swiss league. I don't know which one he played in. Um, but he was ranked around like 9 or 10 in most draft boards, and they took him at 3. Um, I know they're desperate for centers, but it's not like Montreal's stacked really anywhere in the forward lineup. So I really think they probably should have taken the best player available there, um, even
Right.
if it was a winger. Um, or if they weren't, they should have traded down and you know let somebody else give them something to pick Kachuk or Zadina. But Ottawa didn't really surprise anybody. They took Kachuk at 4. Really, the only big surprise there was the fact that they kept the pick because I don't know if you remember, they owe Colorado a first round pick for the Duchesne trade. It could have been this year's, or because they were in the top 10, they could take their pick here and then push the next year's pick to Colorado. They took this one, which is somewhat dangerous because if they're trending in the path they are, they could easily have a top 5 pick next year too. So
Yeah, there are all kinds of crazy things that can happen with those traditional picks, aren't there?
yeah. But they definitely. I mean, their first round pick next year is gone. There's no lottery protection. They could get first overall Jack Hughes pick, and Colorado's gonna take it. So, um,
Yeah.
yeah, they're out of the running on that one. Um, the next pick was 5. Arizona had the 5th pick. They passed on Zadina too, who was still up there. They went way down, took a guy that was ranked around 14th or 15th, another center in Barrett Hayton. So this could be why Montreal took Kotkaniemi when they did, because they could have heard that Arizona was taking a center and he wasn't going to be available when they, you know, came back around or if they traded down. So
That makes sense.
don't know what Arizona's doing here. Arizona needs pretty much every position possible. Um, I will say their wings pretty set with guys like Keller and um, Keller, Galchenyuk now, some of the other people they have. But I still think they probably could have taken Zadina there and had a much better pick. Zadina didn't have to wait long though. He went 6 to Detroit. Detroit really could have used defensemen, but they got lucked into 2 really good forwards in the first round pick because they also got Joe Veleno all the way at 30, and he was ranked as high as 13 in some mock drafts. So um, they stole the board really with Zadina at 6 and Veleno at 30. Had one of the best teams coming out of the first round. Uh, Going on from there, I'll just run them down quickly because we don't want to go over the entire first round. Vancouver took Quentin Hughes at 7, defenseman out of University of Michigan. Chicago took a Swedish defenseman, or I think he might be Finnish actually, Adam Boqvist at 8. The Rangers went way off the board, took Vitaly Kravtsov at 9th. He was like ranked in the 20s. I don't know what they're doing there, but and then Edmonton got Evan Bouchard, who's a defenseman at 10. And then the Islanders had back-to-back picks, and they get Oliver Wahlstrom and Noah Dobson. Um, After that, it really goes off the rails. Like I said, not a lot of big-name players after, the first 12. But Detroit, Edmonton, and the Islanders had really good first rounds with their picks in terms of guys that they got. And then Montreal, Arizona, and the Rangers, I think, reached a little bit with theirs in their top 10.
Arizona. Sorry.
um, Other than that, the only other news we got out of the draft, there was 2 pretty big trades on draft days. The first one happened a little bit before the first round started. Washington sent Grubauer and Orpik to Colorado for a second-round pick.
Yeah, they were just getting rid of that cap for old Carly.
Which they used to re-sign John Carlson.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I don't have his contract details written down. I think he got $8 million a year.
He did.
Yeah.
Yeah, 8 years, 8 mil.
8 years, 8 mil. Which honestly is probably what Carlson's worth, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think the experts, so to speak, were projecting he would get 8.6. So
yeah,
it's about right.
And he got 8 years, which he can only get if he signed with Washington. 8 per. He's only
28, I think, maybe.
28, 27, 28. So even that 8 years, I mean, last couple of years might be a little bit troublesome, but I mean, Washington's probably not going to be in the running then anyway. So
Right.
and they've got Oshie going to be like 38, making $6 million a year at that point. So,
Oh.
um, yeah.
Yeah.
In terms of Colorado's into the deal, they get bona fide backup goaltender who's probably going to be a borderline starter for him, Grubauer. Varlamov's only got 1 year left in his contract, so Grubauer
Yeah,
will
didn't they
probably
give
take
him
over
like
after that.
three something a year?
Yep, yep, 3.33 I think for 3 years.
Yeah.
I think he got like 3 years, 10 mil.
He
So
could for sure end up starting. Yeah, could see that.
yeah, they did turn around and bought Orpik out. So they basically just gave the dead cap to Washington for that second round pick. Grubauer, the rumors were that Washington wanted a first for him, so them taking Orpik's cap drove that price down to a second for him.
Yeah, because they
Yeah, for
they
sure.
they probably could have gotten a first for Grubauer. But yeah.
Yeah, I would think a team like the Islanders, Carolina. Well, Carolina wouldn't give up their first this year, but um, really goalie needy teams would have made the move for him. So, um, the other big trade from draft day, this wasn't on the first round. I think this was on day two, um, like later in the draft. Calgary gets Elias Lindholm and Noah Hannafin from Carolina for Dougie Hamilton, Michael Furlan, and Adam Fox, who's a defensive prospect. Who's supposed to be a pretty good defensive prospect, too. Um, Calgary ends up getting probably the best player in the deal with Noah Hannafin. Maybe not immediately, but he has the most potential. Elias Lindholm's not bad at all either. He's probably going to step in and play on the wing with Gaudreau and Monahan there. So that'll be a good pickup for them. They get rid of Dougie Hamilton. Starting to worry me about Dougie Hamilton because this is his third team already, and he's only like 26, I think. Um, uh, in terms of what Carolina gets out of it, they obviously get Hamilton. He's signed for $6 million a year for the next 3 years, I believe. Noah Hannafin and Elias Lindholm are both up for new contracts, so I think their new GM was like, we're not going to pay them, kind of thing. They also get a decent depth player in Furlan, who will probably be a good, third, fourth liner, and a prospect in Fox.
What what do you make of this one? Because I mean, okay, so from the Flames' perspective, it makes some sense because I know they have a lot of talented young defensemen. So I think they could afford to part with Hamilton. On top of the fact that they're receiving a
Well, I
very
mean, they're getting Hannafin back.
that too.
Hannafin's
It's
probably going to be the better player here in a year or two.
yeah, it's the
So,
Canes. I don't get the deal because they're in rebuild mode. Why would you? I mean, why would you get rid
why
of
would
your
you get
young
older?
talent? Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't understand.
Again, I think it had a lot to do with the fact they were both up for contracts.
Yeah,
And that, they were probably looking at combined. Lindholm was probably going to ask for 4 to 5, somewhere in that range. And Hannafin was probably going to get about what, or Hannafin was probably going to get about what Hamilton is currently making at about 6 mil. So, um, I don't know. Could just be, new GM wanting to make waves. I definitely think I definitely think Calgary wins the trade.
yeah,
Just
absolutely.
because of the fact that I think the best player in the trade is Hannafin. Hamilton's the best player right now, but Hannafin's gonna pass him soon. Hannafin is, I mean, he was picked at fifth overall, I think, a couple years back, and they had him ranked at third behind McDavid and Eichel in that draft. So, um, I don't know. Didn't make a lot of sense for me to why Carolina would do it, other than just wanting to move out some guys for some new faces. Um, they do still have a lot of young talent in defense, so that could be part of it. Maybe they wanted some more veteran leadership on the defenseman. I don't think I would consider Hamilton that much of a veteran leadership, but he's older than Hannafin at least. Because they still got Slavin, they still got Brett Pesce, they've still got Hayden Fleury in the minors.
There's no Falk, don't they?
They've still got Justin Falk, yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, their defensive core is not going to struggle really that much from it. I just think they could have got more back, especially if they sent Lindholm. They probably could have got a better forward back, in my opinion,
Yeah,
or a
yeah.
pick.
I don't know that was just that was a bit of a head scratcher for me. I think the
Yeah,
Flames easily win that deal.
yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you.
Anyway,
Uh, But yeah, that's pretty much all that happened in the draft. Not all. There were obviously 7 rounds, but I'm not going to go through covering everyone's picks. I really don't know much about hockey prospects outside the first round anyway, to be completely straight with you. So.
Well, not just that, but I mean, after the first round, most players don't make it to the NHL anyway. I mean, sometimes you get lucky, maybe up through the second and third rounds, but yeah. So.
No, I mean, every pick matters though. Patrick Hornquist was the last pick of the draft, and look where he is at. So.
Yeah. Yeah. It happens. It's just rare. But,
it does. But yeah, it's extremely hit or miss at that point. It's really hit or miss after the first 10 picks, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it really is. So, as we said earlier, today was free agency, and I guess let's start with the biggest one. The John Tavares sweepstakes have concluded.
Mm-hmm. And R.I.P. Islanders fans.
Yeah.
Ouch, man. In case you didn't know, in case you're living under a rock, because if you're watching this and at least mildly interested in NHL, you should know this by now. John Tavares is now a Toronto Maple Leaf. He signed a 7-year deal for $77 million, $11 million per year, which was actually a discount to the offer that the Sharks made him, because the Sharks offered him $12 million a year, as did the Islanders.
Wow.
And he took the smaller contract to go play for, because he's from Toronto. He grew up a Maple Leafs fan. Quite frankly, Toronto has the best chance of winning in the next couple of years out of all those teams.
Well, okay. Out of those teams, sure. Let me ask you this though. Now, I mean, look, you have a player of that caliber that's even willing to take slightly less. You're not gonna not sign the guy. I'm not saying that they shouldn't have signed Tavares, because obviously you signed John Tavares, but it is $11 million, and I don't think it's much of a secret that the Leafs could use a little help on that blue line.
For sure.
For
sure. I wouldn't be surprised to see a guy like Kadri, possibly, or maybe one of the other young guys like Marner and Nylander, on the move for a defenseman before too long. Reason being, Kadri makes like $5 million a year, and he's now going to be 3C. They're not going to be able to keep that.
Does he make that much?
2, yeah, he makes a lot of money.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. 2, I mean, they're gonna retain Matthews. Obviously, they're gonna run like a Penguin style 1-2 punch at center with Tavares and Matthews. They're both gonna get paid pretty heavily. With that, they're probably only gonna be able to keep one of Nylander or Marner, and I would think they keep Marner just because the positional fit is better with him. So the smart play would be to move one of those other pieces out while you still have them, to get a defenseman back for some defensive help. They're not completely hopeless at defense. They do have Morgan Riley, who is a really good defenseman. They do have Jake Gardner, who's got his moments. Nikita Zaitsev has his moments. But they could definitely use one more top 4 defenseman for sure.
Yes.
If they get that, I think they're probably at least a top 2 team in the East with Tampa. Their current roster.
Yeah, for sure. Now, I can see your point about Kadri, and that is possible, but you also have to consider they lost Bozak. So,
they did lose Bozak. And they don't really have anyone else to fill that 3C role, so I think Kadri's more than likely just going to play out his contract. That's not a move they would make this year either. It might be one where, like, a year or 2 down the line, they move Kadri and then sign another guy that they can play 3C in the free agency role for cheaper. But I can't see Kadri staying there for that long at 3C. You know what I mean? More than like a year or 2.
Yeah, I mean, he would be a hell of a 3C. I mean, if they keep their center depth as is now, they'll be up there with the Penguins. You know?
Oh, for sure. For sure, yeah.
So, but, yeah, I think you're right. I think they would be more inclined to move, one of those young wingers until they can get somebody to replace Kadri.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, they're gonna be scary. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, for
they're
sure.
gonna be good.
For sure. That's terrifying if you're in the Atlantic.
Oh God.
It's got to be
Yeah.
even doubly painful if you're a Bruins fan, considering they were in the sweepstakes for him at one point too. So,
Yeah.
whew.
Uh,
Bruins got some other bad news too. I'll throw this out there because I don't have it written down anywhere. I just want I remember it. Rick Nash is more than likely going to retire. He's not coming back at all.
well, that might be
So,
good news for the Bruins.
depending on how you look at it, but that's still a hole they got to fill that they probably didn't think they'd have to. So.
Yeah, for sure. This probably okay. Well, we're on the Bruins topic. I'm sure this was not the next signing on your list, but just because we're here, I had no idea that Riley Nash was a free agent, and he went to Columbus, right?
He did go for Columbus for way more money than I think he's worth. Uh,
Yeah.
3 years, 2.75 per. I think
Oof.
Riley Nash really isn't much more than a 4C. He had a good year this year, but you got to keep in mind the entire Boston team had an insanely good year this year. And when you're on a really good team, you usually overplay.
Yeah. Well, you can tell the Jackets are. I mean, they've pretty much always been hurting for centers, so I could see why they would make that move.
Yeah, yeah,
And slightly overpay for it.
yeah.
But we'll get to the Jackets later. Man, they got cleaned out. I mean, they got Nash, which is good, but they lost a lot of guys.
They did. They did.
They were probably one of the biggest losers of the whole spiel.
Yeah.
But
Let me go. How do you want me to do this? You want me to just go down the line from what I have them on? Or...
yeah, I mean, I guess whatever you think were like the largest to the
The
smallest.
biggest ones?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, the other biggest contract in terms of money today, it wasn't actually a free agent, it was an extension, but Drew Doughty got extended with the Kings.
Oh, he
I don't know
did?
if you heard about that.
No, I didn't know that.
Yes, he got 8 years, 88 million, 11 million per year. So Doughty ain't going anywhere. He was on his last year of his contract. Yeah.
Yeah, that's...
I mean, Doughty's worth it though, man.
Yeah,
He's a top 3 defenseman in the league for sure.
Yeah.
So, while we're on the topic of extensions, I'll cover the other big ones that happened today. Oliver Ekman-Larsson is staying with Arizona, 8 years, 8.25 million per.
Nice.
Couture isn't going anywhere. San Jose locks him up for 8 years, 8 million per.
Wait, really? For Couture?
Yeah, for Couture.
I mean...
Well, you got to think they're going to lose Thornton. They're going to have the money to spend on that. Plus, they lost out on Tavares. So at that point, they're kind of like, yeah, we need to make sure we don't lose Couture.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I don't think that's a gross overpayment, but a little bit. Slightly.
I would probably give him about 7. 6.5,
Yeah.
7.
Yeah.
But, it is what it is. That's really it for the extensions. The other biggest free agents that I had written down, this is one of the earliest ones that broke. Paul Stastny is going to Vegas, man.
Yeah.
Man, Vegas actually did pretty well for themselves today, too. They got Stastny. Who else did they get that I have written
Well, they
down?
re-signed Reeves, so they're going to win the cup, obviously.
They did re-sign Reeves. I had one other guy they got. Give me 1 second here. I'll find it in a minute, but yeah, they had themselves a pretty good day, and they got probably the biggest center on the market not named John Tavares with Stastny. Guess you could argue him and Bozak, but I think Stastny's better than Bozak. So
Yeah.
While we're on the topic of Bozak went to Stastny. Let's talk about his deal first. He got 3 years, 6.5 mil per, which isn't really that bad.
That's about right.
Might be a little overpaid from how old Stastny is, but I think he can still play up to that contract, and I think he comes in as immediately. I don't know if they give him 1C just because of how well William Karlsson played last year, but he's going to be no worse than their 2C for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
We'll skip to Bozak because I just brought him up. St. Louis signed him. They got him for 3 years for $5 million per, which I think is probably pretty high for Bozak.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Bozak can play 2C, but I think he's better off as your 3. Um, he's probably going to be 2C. We'll talk about another move that St. Louis made here in a minute, but um, I don't know, man. I probably wouldn't give him Bozak more than 4. I would think, especially for 3 years. That's a lot of investment in him. But St. Louis also brought Perron back. While we're talking about him, they got
Yeah.
him for 4 years at $4 million per.
Yeah.
So, so Vegas did lose out on Perron. Getting Stasny back, you know, that's not a that's a it's a pretty good move. But I know they weren't going to keep all the wingers they had anyway. They couldn't afford to. But
Yeah, I think they can part with Perron. I mean, he's a solid player, but it's not like the end of the world.
for sure. How about this one? James Van Riemsdyk is going back to Philly, the team that drafted him.
Oh yeah, they
Philly's
did,
giving
didn't
him
they?
$7 million a year for 5 years.
Whew.
Yeah, that's pricey, man.
I don't know about all that.
Well, the thing you got to remember is Philly does not really have anything on the left wing though. Like
Yeah,
they don't
true.
have anything at all, man. They do have you got Giroux as their 1C, Konechny, Patrick, um, Voracek. Voracek is their top right wing, and then they have Simmons as their 2 right wing. But their left wings, they had guys like Raffle playing with the first line. So this at least gives them a full first line. With you gotta assume it's probably gonna be JVR, Giroux, and Voracek on the first. So
Yeah, I mean he's good. Obviously, I mean I just think that's a little much, but
yeah, yeah. Oh well, the Flyers are known to overpay players too. It wouldn't be the first or the last time they do it, probably.
yeah, they certainly
Um,
are.
Speaking of overpaid players, I did not like this deal at all. LA signs Kovalchuk. 3
Oh
years,
yeah.
6.25 per.
Eh.
We knew about this one for a couple days. This wasn't really big news. It kind of broke early. Um, but man, that's a lot of money to pay a guy that old
Yeah.
that hasn't played in the NHL for like what 4 years.
Yes, and it's a much different league now too.
Actually,
So
longer than that. I think it's been like 5 or 6 years.
yeah, it's been a while. I think he'll be all right. Worth that money? I don't know.
I mean, he's probably going to be playing with Kopitar, and that'll probably mask some of his deficiencies. Because Kopitar will set him up, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
true.
Kovalchuk can snipe still. You don't have to be fast to snipe. So, I mean, I still think Kopitar, at least this year, I think he'll drop a 30-goal season, more than likely. It's just what he's going to do in like the last year and a half of that contract. That's probably the bigger question. But
Yeah, true. That as well.
let's see here. Trying to cover the other biggest news. Jay Beagle went to Vancouver. They overpaid him. They gave him 4 years, $3 million a year. Jay Beagle's not worth that, in my opinion.
Yeah, dude, that was one of the ones that I couldn't believe. I mean, he's a solid guy, but 3 mil a year for Jay Beagle.
Yeah,
God
yeah, that's pretty. I mean, you got to
no.
think they're going to try to run him at 3C, but that leaves me questions of what they do though, because they had. Well, then again, they're losing. I forgot they're losing Henrik. Never mind. They lost Henrik and Daniel Sedin. They both
Oh
retired.
yeah, they retired.
Um,
Yeah,
mhm. So that's going to bump Sutter back up to 2C more than likely because they have Horvat as their 1C. So that's Beagle's probably going to come in and play 3C there.
that's that's a disaster.
Yeah, yeah,
uh,
they're not improving anytime soon.
no.
But let's see here. Ben Hutton, this was a big one, or not Ben Hutton, Carter Hutton. Sorry, wrong Hutton. Carter Hutton is going to Buffalo. They have a new goalie. They did not re-sign Robin Lehner, and they signed Carter Hutton to a 3-year, $2.75 million per year deal. Um,
Interesting.
Hutton put up great numbers with St. Louis last year. Actually beat out Allen for the starting job. So we'll see what happens. But backup goalies having a good year and they go into a new team don't have a good track record. Look at Scott Darling. That didn't work out at all for Carolina. So then again, though, I mean they really didn't have any other options. Robin Lehner wasn't getting the job done, so might as well take a flyer on him, especially for that cheap.
Yeah.
Um, they're pretty high on Linus Olmark too in their system. So I guess if Hutton doesn't work out, they'll go with him. But Detroit made some moves. They re-signed Mike Green. I don't know what they're doing with that. I don't know why on earth they need a guy like Mike Green on their team. They gave him 2 years and 5.375 per year too. Um, I don't know why Detroit won't just come to terms with the fact they need to rebuild. Because listen to their other signing they got, Thomas Vanek,
Oh yeah.
1 year, $3 million.
Why? I don't know what they're
Why are
doing.
you signing free agents over 35? Like, what are you doing, Detroit? You're not going to push for a cup this year. There's no way. I highly doubt you make the playoffs with the lineup you got. I mean,
Yeah, I
they've got
don't.
Zadina coming in. They've got some younger guys moving up, but they're still a couple years away. And the sooner their GM realizes that, the sooner they stop making moves like this. Vanek, at least, maybe. I mean, I kind of see that one because you could flip him at the deadline if you're doing really bad. You know what I mean? Probably get a second round pick or something back for him. But no one's gonna take on Green at 5.375 a year. It's just not gonna happen.
No. God no.
Yeah. Chicago, they signed Cam Ward, 1 year, $3 million. I think that one has a lot to do with the questions is about whether or not Corey Crawford's even going to be able to play next year with the vertigo symptoms he's having. Um, and then they also got Chris Kunitz, old Pittsburgh boy, 1 year,
Yeah.
1 year, $1 million. I think they also signed Brandon Manning. I didn't write that one down because it was kind of like a depth move. I don't think they gave him that much, but um, I was surprised to see Kunitz go to Chicago of all places. Um, Especially because I
Um.
really don't think they're going to be in the mix this year.
Yeah, that's the thing. I was gonna say, like, if they were still where they were a few years ago, then he could probably get that. What, fifth cup ring? Fifth?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, he's got
But
four.
I don't think the Hawks are gonna be in position to do that anytime soon. So.
I think the Hawks could bounce back and make the playoffs this year, but they're not gonna they're not gonna be a deep run team. I don't think.
Nah, I highly doubt it.
Um, the Central is just too good, too. I mean, it's a brutal division to play in.
Yeah.
Nashville, Winnipeg, um,
Yeah.
Minnesota,
Good luck.
Detroit, or not Detroit, Dallas. Sorry. Um, let's see here. Washington was fairly quiet. They just re-signed two of their guys. They gave Smith Pelly 1 year, $1 million per. They have not re-signed Tom Wilson yet. Um, they offered him a qualifying offer. That one might end up going to arbitration. We'll have to keep an eye on that one. And
Yeah,
then get this.
he's gonna
They
get too
re-signed
much.
Michael
But
Kempney. Yeah, for sure. But they re-signed Michael Kempney and give him 4 years at 2.5 per.
Well,
That seems a lot for Kempney, doesn't it? I mean, I know he had a good year with them last year, but that's the first time he's done anything in the league.
it seems yeah, it does. But you gotta remember, I mean, they lost Orpik, which isn't like a tragedy, but still, he did play very well for them in the playoffs. I think they brought him back just because, like, what else were they gonna do? I mean,
They definitely could have brought him back. I just think they probably could have brought him back for a little bit less than that. But
yeah,
it's not an endbreaker. 2.5 mil. I mean, you got to remember the cap just went up like 4 mil almost too. So
hmm
you know that's gonna inflate contracts a little bit. But next one I have on the list is one that you and I are very familiar with. Jack Johnson.
right, yep,
5 years. What was it? 3.25 a year, I think.
yeah. As we know, Penguin fans are losing their minds over this.
I just don't get it, man. I mean, like, I have my concerns about Jack Johnson. I do. He's throughout his entire career been a negative possession guy on his advanced stats. But they're really, I mean, you've looked through the one names I've read off there so far. There's no defenseman really out there that would have been a better option that I can see.
At least not in free agency, and I know, like, a lot of people wanted them to trade for somebody, but, you see what they got out of Hunwick and Sheary. They got a fourth-round pick for both of those guys. Like, that's basically nothing. And, I mean, there aren't a whole lot of other players they could trade or, like, would want to trade. So, I mean, the most ideal way to do it, obviously, is to sign somebody because you don't have to sacrifice anything for that. And in that regard, they're wasn't a whole lot of options in terms of free agent defensemen.
Yeah. I mean, I have faith that Jack Johnson could turn it around with us. And on top of that, the term is what I don't like. 5 years for Jack when he's already 32 is a little much.
Oh
Um,
yeah, it's absolutely too long. But
yeah.
uh,
But, I mean, sometimes that's just the price you gotta pay to get a guy to sign. I mean, Jack wanted. We all know about Jack's financial issues. If you don't, he's basically bankrupt because his parents put him into a crap ton of debt, signing loans in his name and everything like that.
mhm.
He lost all the money he's made over the years so far, so this contract's what he's retiring off of. So he wasn't going to get a 2-year deal here. You know what I mean? Wherever he signed, he was going to sign for some term. Um, that said, this doesn't mean he has to play out the entire 5 years here. That habit isn't so insanely high that it's unmovable. Um, you know what I mean? Somebody could trade for it. Even if they don't, if it comes to it, they can buy him out if they have to. So
Yeah.
yeah, not gonna be in the world. They're not gonna, their next cup doesn't ride on them signing Jack Johnson or not. So
But that's the thing. Like, people act like they signed him to like play with Letang or something, and like he's probably going to be a third pairing defenseman. I mean,
for sure. I mean,
maybe on the second pair if he plays well. But
I don't think
yeah,
they'd put him with Schultz with the problems he had with his possession over the years. I think they're gonna leave Mata there and play him on the third with Alexiak.
yeah. Well, yeah, which is what they should do. So,
Yeah, but
um, yeah, I think it'll be okay. I think a lot of people needed to chill out about that. It's not the end of the world.
yeah, I hear you. I'm right there with you. Um, while we're talking about the Pens, let's just mention they brought back Matt Cullen, 1 year league minimum, 650K. Depth move, may play 4C for us, probably more likely 4W or something like that, depending on how they play, what they do with Broussard. Um, I've seen people upset about this one. Matt Cullen is 42. I understand that, but at a league minimum, who cares? You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
for sure.
Like that's not going to hurt us at all. We weren't close to
Yeah,
the cap.
yeah. The
I think even after signing him, we still have like a mil and 1.6 mil left or something.
something like that. The example that I used is it's kind of like when they signed Antoniemi, you know,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
for cheap, and worst case if it doesn't work out, it doesn't really matter. So
And he got waived, got claimed, and we were out of the contract. Um, like I said, worst case scenario, Cullen just rides the press box all year, and if he does, he's still a locker room guy. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
I don't get the vitriol over that one. um, next guy I have on the list, Montreal re-signed Thomas Plekanec, um, which they traded him to Toronto last year, I think, right? Recently.
I think so.
They gave him 1 year, 3.5 million per. Um, that's still too much for Plekanec, in my opinion. But Montreal didn't need centers, so not the end of the world. Especially only 1 year, it doesn't really matter. But I don't think Montreal's close to the cap anyway. Um, the Islanders did get Leo Komarov. Doesn't make up for losing Tavares by any means, but they gave him 4 years, 3 million per year. Um, I don't know. I guess that's a decent contract. I really don't follow Komarov that much. He's one of those guys that I forget he was even in the league until I hear him play. To be honest with you. Um, so, but I mean, they obviously had cap space to move since they lost Tavares. Minnesota signed Eric Fair, 1 year, 1 million. And it is what it is. It doesn't really matter. Depth move, kind of like Cullen. Um, these ones are interesting. Colorado signs Ian Cole. 3 years, 4.25 million a year. What do you think about that one? I know you're familiar with Cole.
Well, that's about it. I've been saying for a while that I was pretty sure that Cole was going to get probably somewhere between 4 and 5 million. Um, I don't think it's terrible overpayment. I don't know that Cole is worth quite that much, but again, this is what happens. Not only when the cap goes up, but also when there just aren't that many free agent defensemen out there. Um,
Yeah.
so Um, it's not too bad. I think Cole is capable of being, a top four guy. Um, not a top two guy, but a top four guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, if he's your number 4, it's really not the worst case in the world.
Yeah.
Montreal, I mean, Colorado has some cap space to spare. They don't really have a ton tied up to big name guys. I mean, the only big guys they have is McKinnon and Landeskog. So, um, yeah, decent move. They also signed Matt Calvert. They poached him from Columbus. They gave him 3 years, 2.8 million.
Yeah. A little high for Calvert. Although he did
Yeah,
have a good. I mean, was he not the Jackets' leading scorer in the playoffs, though? Right?
he was. Yeah, which
Which,
one tells you a lot about how the Jackets did in the playoffs. But,
yeah,
but I mean, he had a heck of a year in the playoffs. But again, there's a danger in signing a guy that comes off of a high playoff, series. They generally don't reproduce it.
yeah, that's true.
I don't know. But again, like I said, Colorado's got cap to play with. They can afford to throw some money around. Decent depth signings there at least. Colorado is trending up. I think they're. If they played in the Pacific, I would say they're definitely in the playoffs this year. I don't know with them playing in the Central, but I can't imagine they don't at least get a wild card spot with the roster they have.
Yeah.
But going down the line, Detroit signed Jonathan Bernier. 3 years, $3 million. They didn't. I don't know what's going on with Jimmy Howard. I think he's got 1 year left on his deal. So Bernier could play backups this year and then end up starting for him. Bernier played really well in backup role for Colorado this year. So, he could push some more starts from Jimmy Howard, especially given their goalie situation. But again, don't know what Detroit's doing, sign a big name free agents like that when they really should be rebuilding. But um, I don't really have much else, man. The Stars signed Godobin to be their backup goalie. They gave him 2 years, 2.5 million per. They're still overpaying for backup goalies. I don't know why the Stars won't learn that you don't need to have $10 million tied up in goalies. Um,
Yeah, you think they would have learned that lesson by now?
yeah, they did. I do think. I know that Lettinen is off the books for him now. His contract
Ah,
expired, so
well,
they
that's
they do
good.
have Bishop and Kadobin, but I mean, I still think. I guess they don't trust Bishop fully yet, but I still think that's a lot to pay for a backup goalie at 2.5 million, especially when you're already paying your starter like 6. So
Yeah,
yeah,
agreed.
but other than that, the only one I had written down was Arizona extending Yalmerson. I forgot to mention that earlier when we were extending that. Just was at the bottom of my list and I missed it, but they gave him 2 years, 5 million per. So as we know, Arizona has plenty of cap space to throw around. So I think they basically just said, "Hey, all right, Hammer, what do you want?" And they gave it to him. So
Right.
which Hammer's a good top 4 defenseman. Um, with them locking up OEL and Hammer and having Chitrin coming up, their top 4 is looking pretty good in the foreseeable future. So defense won't be the reason Arizona doesn't win. It'll probably be one of the 17 other reasons why that team is perennially garbage. But and then the last thing that happened, and this broke literally right before we started recording, um, Buffalo has traded Ryan O'Reilly. Sean.
What?
Yeah.
Why? What? Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Oh wait. I'm sorry. I have no idea why. I I get Ryan O'Reilly mixed up with Morgan Riley, and
Gotcha.
so by default, just because I was thinking you know, like about
Top
a
two, top two defenseman.
yeah, I thought that you meant Ristolainen for some stupid ass reason, and I was like,
No,
why? But I mean, still,
no, but
O'Reilly's pretty good too, though, is he not?
yeah, he was their 2C for sure. I mean, but
Well, what did they
um,
get?
they sent him to St. Louis and get this package. They get prospect Tage Thompson, Patrick Berglund, Vladimir Sobotka, next year's first round pick, and a second round pick in 2021 for
Jesus
only Ryan O'Reilly back.
Christ!
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I can't blame Botterill for taking that one. If St. Louis wants to pay that much for Ryan O'Reilly, go for it. Correct me if O'Reilly played with Colorado before he came to Buffalo. That's right. But yeah, St. Louis they signed Bozak today, and now they have O'Reilly. So there's their 1-2 punch more than likely, which really
Yeah,
isn't bad. Really isn't
no,
bad.
that's solid.
Um, they've also got a guy, another Thompson. I can't remember his first name. It's not Tage though. Another Thompson coming in. That was one of their prospects. They're real high on. Is supposedly gonna be really good, and he's probably gonna start playing 3C for them this year. So, um, they're they've had a lot of turnover in the last couple years. St. Louis, I mean, they've lost a ton of big guys like Shattenkirk, Stasny. I know they've lost others. I'm just drawing a blank. Perron left and then came back, guys like that. But um, they're starting. I mean, for some reason they lose these guys and they just keep plugging in new guys and keep making the playoffs in this case. I know they missed last year. But they were like right on the verge. It came down to that game with them in Colorado, and Colorado won and got it. So, but
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, if I'm Buffalo, I mean, I know that they're trying to push and get better, but you're gonna call like that for O'Reilly and they're paying that much. You got to take it, in my opinion. Um, and
yeah, I
then,
mean, that's a hell of that's a lot. So
yeah, that's a big package. Um, but yeah, bit of an overpay from St. Louis, in my opinion, but I think they're trying to push back and get back to a playoff contender spot because they've been kind of down and out for the last year and a half. Ever since they lost to Nashville in that Cup run in 2017, they've really been pretty down since then. So, uh,
yeah, well, if that is all you have, um,
that's about it. I mean, there were other free agent signings, but I just don't have time to cover everybody. It would have been we would have been here all night. So that's the big ones though in terms of guys. Oh, actually, I don't know how I missed this. They have Braden Shen too, St. Louis.
oh yeah, and he had a
So
hell of a year too.
yeah, um, yeah, man, they're gonna be stacked down to C then, because now they have a Riley, Shen, Bozak, and this Thompson kid. So that's Robert Thomas. That's who it is. Robert Thomas. They're big on. So yeah, it was a pretty good day for St. Louis. They cleaned up.
Yeah. Um.
But,
So I wanted to ask you, who are your biggest winners and losers of E3?
of E3,
Oh Jesus Christ, E3. Yeah. Sorry, we filmed our post E3
I hear you.
show earlier today. Free agency.
Free agency. If we're just counting free agency, we're not counting the draft. The biggest winner is Toronto because they got the best player on the board. Um, it's going to cause them a little bit of headaches with cap management and everything going forward. But when you get a chance to get a guy like John Tavares, you don't pass on it if you get Tavares for literally nothing. So
Yeah, for sure.
they're the biggest winner. Other winners, Vegas, I think did pretty well for themselves. Um, just going down through it, trying to think. Arizona had a pretty good one. Like I said, they extended Ekman Larson and Harmerson, so they don't have to worry about that. Plus, they got Michael Grabner. I didn't mention that one because it was a smaller deal, but excuse me. Um, yeah. Other than that, there were a lot of names that went around, but there weren't a lot of big talents outside of Tavares and a couple other guys. Um, I like JVR to Philly. I just don't like the price they had to pay for him. But I
Yeah.
do think he makes them a better team immediately. I do like Ben Hutton, or Carter Hutton to Buffalo. Don't know what trajectory they're trending with the O'Reilly trade. Before they did that, I thought they were really making a push to be a better team this year. With the O'Reilly trade, I think they might still be in a small rebuild going forward. But yeah, biggest winner is definitely Toronto. Biggest loser, the Islanders, man. It's got to be.
Yeah.
I mean, they go from playoff hopefuls to probably a bottom three team in the league with one move. I know they still have Barzal, but Barzal he's coming off his rookie year. I know he scored 80 plus points, but is he going to be able to do that again? And on top of that, who do you have behind him? You know what I mean? Like
Right.
they're going to be struggling now. Their goaltending is terrible. Their center depth is terrible now. They don't really have a ton on the wing. Their defense is struggling and getting old. I mean, they could be the worst team in the league next year, and it wouldn't really surprise me.
Yeah, well, you also have to bear in mind that they'll Calvin DeHaan, is going to sign from somewhere else
He
too.
didn't re-sign anywhere, yet. So it's possible they still could bring him back.
Yeah, but not likely.
He's still on the market, but
yeah.
I wouldn't do that if I'm them now.
No.
He is kind of young, so if they brought him back just to be one of the pieces they start to rebuild with, wouldn't be a bad thing. But
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, the Islanders are the obvious choice there. Like I said earlier, I mean, Columbus didn't have a great time. I mean, they lost Calvert, they lost Johnson, they lost Vanek, and wasn't there one more?
There wasn't really any chance they were going to retain Vanek to begin with. That was a rental move.
Well, sure. And God, wasn't there one more? There's one more, wasn't there?
I would have to go through.
And Cole.
Oh yeah, Cole.
Cole. And
losing Cole hurts for them. Losing Calvert hurts just because of how long he's been with them, I think. But if you really look at it, I mean, I don't think they thought they were going to retain Cole to begin with. Johnson was a healthy scratch for him half the year last year, so I don't think they really care about that one as much. And Calvert was a fourth line guy, so they lost some pieces, but I still think the biggest losers got to be the Islanders.
Oh no, for sure. And I know this wouldn't quite pertain just yet, but I guess they were trying to spark up some contract extension talks with Panarin, and he was not interested.
Yeah. I mean, if they if they end up losing Panarin, that's going to make a big difference. But
yeah, I mean, they obviously have him for this upcoming season, but after that, I don't know. I mean, obviously, I think it depends on what happens, but wouldn't shock me to see Panarin leave there, though.
Yeah.
And that's going to be really bad for the Jackets, but we'll see.
For sure.
Yeah, I think those are the biggest two. I mean, Washington wasn't a loser by any means. They just didn't really do a whole lot, but
no,
most teams
expect them to.
Yeah, but most teams that win the cup can't do a whole lot really.
Yeah.
Afterward.
Detroit, I don't get what they're doing. I mean, I wouldn't call them losers because they got some guys they can use, but I don't know why they're investing in guys like Vanek, Green, and Bernier.
Yeah.
Need to get through a rebuild.
I have no idea. It's weird.
Yeah, I mean, other than that, the biggest names to move were the guys that I already mentioned, and everyone else just kind of moved depth pieces, which really aren't going to make that much of a difference here and there. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a no-brainer to me. The biggest winners Toronto, biggest losers the Islanders.
Yeah.
And that all came down to Tavares, which was, I mean, we haven't seen a guy of Tavares' caliber move, and I can't remember a time it happened recently. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's been a while. I mean, Stamkos was almost that guy, and then he stayed. So, yeah, it's a pretty big one for sure. We don't see it all that often.
No,
Especially,
I mean, to lose a guy of that caliber for nothing, to walk for free in free agency, that can set franchise back a decade, man, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, we're pushing an hour here, so I was gonna wrap it up. I mean, if you have anything left, that's okay.
No, that's pretty much it.
All right. I was thinking we'll see what we do. I mean, it's going to get slower now with the end of hockey season, the end of basketball, and the end of football. Yeah. Really, just baseball is going on for the most part now. Although I was gonna say maybe next week if you are game, we could do a little on the World Cup. I'm
Yeah,
not a huge soccer fan or